Welcome back, everybody. What's going on? Today, we're going to take a little bit of a break from the NFL draft. I'm sure a lot of you are just been watching a ton of videos on that lately, and today we're going to focus on some players who are going to be potentially losing a ton of value if they fall short of the expectations, the lofty expectations that we have kind of set on them the last couple of years or their first couple of years in the league. Unfortunately, we have some pretty big names on here, a lot to talk about, and it's going to be a great discussion. But before we start, you can probably see that we have a guest today. It's kind of been in the works for a while, but you'll be seeing my good friend on here, Matthew, for a couple of videos a month. Did you want to just briefly introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, so me and Noah started playing fantasy football. We played baseball together in college. It was one of the first things that we became friends over. And yeah, I just have really dove into the dynasty side of things in the last few years as we've started this league together, which has been super cool. I played sports for a long time, just recently started a real career. So cool because I get to have a little bit of that, like, inside of, like, we're going to talk about Sam Laporta later in this video, and I can tell you what a herniated disc actually feels like and how hard those are to recover from. But yeah, super excited. I think just as far as Dynasty goes, my main theories are watch the film, view everything like investments, and if you don't have a championship level roster, then tear it down and rebuild, get assets. Is like, don't ever get stuck in the middle. So a lot of my opinions come from that. I either want to have a great team or I want to be building one. Don't get stuck in between. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we think a lot on the same things, but at the same time, we do have some differing opinions on a couple of different subjects. You're going to bring a nice different perspective to this channel. So, all right, well, I know that we've talked a little bit to start this off, so let's just jump right into the first player. And he's very 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 polarizing, and it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, I want you to start this off because I want to know exactly how you feel about him. He's wide receiver 23 on Keep Trade Cut. He's going in the sixth round of startups, beginning of the sixth round, so still kind of like he's lost some value from, of course, when we took him at. I mean, in our league, I think I took him at the 101 when he was drafted, and now if we did a redraft, I mean, he's going behind Daniels, Neighbors. You can debate Odunze, however you feel about him. I'm missing, like, of course, Bo Nix, but yeah, he's definitely fallen down quite a bit. Generational prospect? Question mark, because looking back, it kind of makes me wonder if that's we should have put those lofty expectations on him. He's had 11.6 and 10.7 points per game in his first 2 years. I know he's been a little bit hurt, but top outside of the top 40 wide receivers in points per game his first 2 years. So not exactly what we thought we were getting, but yeah, just look. I just want to hear your thoughts on it because where are you at with him right now? Where do you have him in your rankings? What would you view like a win for him this year, and how volatile of an asset do you think he is? Like, you think he's safer than a lot of people think?
I mean, yeah, I think you got to start with the good on these guys. I never like being too critical of professional athletes. I know it's their job, but also at the same time, like, it's really,
Best
really
thing in the
hard to
world.
play sports at an elite level. I think Marv's still a great intermediate route runner. I think he's good at getting separation in that, like, 10 to 20 yard range. When you watch a lot of his highlights, that's where a lot of his big plays come from. Comes on a lot of broken plays. Like, he's kind of a good, like, backyard style receiver where he can act as a safety blanket, and he's been very productive against bad defenses, which is kind of what terrifies me about Marv because he hasn't ever been great at, like, quick separation. I don't think he really wins a ton of his short routes. If you look on the film for that, he's never been targeted to where he could produce above a wide receiver 30 season. I think the scariest part of it is that they do have the TE1 in that offense. They've had to throw the ball a lot because they've been bad the last couple of years. And Michael Wilson exploded in the back half of last
Yeah,
year. And I think that says more about Marv than it does Michael Wilson because the Cardinals offense last year had the wide receiver 10 in fantasy football and the tight end one. And then neither of them were Marvin Harrison Jr. Um, I think that he's just somebody that, like, also just from an investment perspective, like you have to realize that most Marv owners haven't moved off of him quite yet. And most of those guys did draft him at the 101, which is where he was properly valued coming out of school. I think that based on Marv's asking price, I don't know if he's ever going to turn into a player that can be a wide receiver two, even on a championship level roster. So for me, I wouldn't be giving
interesting.
up assets that like equated to that type of value. He's my personal wide receiver 28. I've seen him as high in as the 15 to 18 rankings in the dynasty community. But
Yeah,
honestly, I would rather have Lemon and I would rather have Tyson. So like when you're looking
yeah.
at
I
rookie
think
drafts, I think that Concepcion is the first one that I would consider moving off of for Marv. And I just don't see his owners, based on their initial investment of him, being ready to eat their sunk cost yet and give that lottery ticket away to someone else, just because he does still have top three overall or top four overall pick draft capital wherever he was drafted at. So yeah, I don't know. He's a
yeah.
tricky one, but you're a Marv. You've got some Marv shares, so let's hear it.
No, actually, it's funny you say that because I got out on him after year one. I got spooked, man. After I saw like the whole, because when you watch him in college, I mean, I don't think that he's as good of a prospect as Jeremiah Smith, and I hope that we don't, just make Jeremiah Smith come out when he's coming out as like. I hope we don't put those too high of expectations on him because I think landing spot matters a lot, and a lot of it was we kind of saw like him and Kyler, they just didn't click. Kyler doesn't throw the ball over the middle of the field. They don't really mesh very well because Kyler is kind of shorter, can't see as well. He pretty much operates like outside the hashes more. And Marv struggles to create separation, like which is weird because I thought coming out, and I didn't really watch it too much film at the time, but like from what everybody said, especially Matt Harmon, I mean Matt Harmon's the best, so I'm not really gonna you know take a dig at him because it's not his fault that Marvin got to the NFL and he just not that he forgot how to separate, but he just hasn't been as good. And I get the whole thing with Kyler, but we saw last year Brissett comes in and Michael Wilson goes nuts. I know Marv was like kind of banged up, but I find it hard. Like I think he's going to be no better than the second option. Like I think that Michael Wilson's a good receiver, but I don't think he's going to be as good as Marvin Harrison next year. I think that is honestly feels like 50-50 split between the community right now. But yeah, it just kind of all depends on how good the quarterback for Arizona or whoever's playing quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be Brissett. They brought in Minshew. They drafted Carson Beck too. Um, I don't know. I guess you hope they get it addressed in 2027. Um, tank for Arch, saying whoever's going to go number one. Who knows? But yeah, I'm a little bit higher than you for sure. I think I have him at wide receiver 24, but he's going around. He's going like the between the 104 and the 106. So like you talked about, not quite Tyson range, but it's more like Lemon range and Concepcion. So that really just comes down to like, would you rather re-roll or bet on Marv going into year three? Which to me, I think that's what I'm leaning towards. Like if I have Marvin Harrison and I can't like get off of him for better prices than that, or I can't get up to a better receiver, I'm fine holding him. I think if he doesn't, I know it sounds crazy just stat counting, but if he doesn't like get over 1,000 yards. If he's not like a top 24 wide receiver this year, I mean, at that point he's probably going to be in the range that you have him right now or lower. Because I think at that point it'll have been 3 years. People are kind of just done with it at that point. But yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on how you feel about him. He's going around Lemon. He's ranked around like CMC, Saquon, Cam Ward. I would personally, I like the Eagles landing spot, but not really for year one, being the number two. So I'd probably take Marv over Lemon personally, at least for this next year. But if you would rather just re-roll again, I don't mind it. But yeah, it's a tough conversation because I mean, coming into the NFL or coming into the year that he came out, it was like Marv at 101 or Caleb in a superflex. Like I think we're in a 10 team league together, so we're in a little bit of a little bit smaller rosters, and then of course 10 teams because it was just from our buddies from high school and college. But yeah, I think yeah, it just lofty expectations. He has not lived up to them at all, and sometimes that happens. It happens. We're gonna see it again. It's just disappointing. So yeah, it's good to hear your perspective on someone who's a little bit lower, because it kind of it kind of brings me in a little more. Like I was getting a little bit higher on him. Like I'm doing some underdog drafts right now, and it feels like in the sixth, seventh round, like why not take a shot on a guy in year three? Because I mean, JSN was much better than Marv in year two, but you never know. These guys in year three, they tend to really we finally get to see what they can really do. Like it's kind of now or never, which is going to be a big um, you know, aspect of this video. But yeah, I mean, do you have anything else to add? Like, how do you feel about? Does the quarterback position worry you this year? Because Brissett, I mean, he was cool, but they're not going to throw the ball 40, 50 times. They have new coach coming in, like new everything. So Jeremiah
Well,
Love,
I think the new coach coming in though is probably the only thing that would make me even consider buying some Marv shares.
yeah,
Uh,
LaFleur
just
seems
because
pretty.
you, you've seen, you know, Mike LaFleur. I get him and his brother confused all the time, so if I call him Matt, my bad. But like you've
It's one of the
seen
LaFleurs.
the Rams offense be awesome. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a little sketched out by their offensive line. I personally worry about Marv in an offense that's not, like where the quarterback's not playing behind an elite offensive line. I think that's the
Right.
reason why McBride and Wilson were so awesome for fantasy last year. Why Jeremiah Love's probably going to be pretty decent for fantasy again is because Brissett knew, like, hey, my offensive line's not that great. He was getting the ball out quick, making quick reads a lot. And that's just not where Marv thrives. So it'll be interesting to see if LaFleur does a better job of scheming him open
Yeah,
than, I forget who the coordinator was when Gannon was there, but I don't know. I just
he's a starter right
personally,
now too. So
yeah,
yeah,
I personally don't. I would, if I was a Marv owner and I was still like not great, I would hold. If I was a Marv owner and my team was good, I would be doing anything and everything to get like a CMC, Saquon, Derrick Henry type guy on my
even
roster.
AJ Brown,
AJ
someone who's
Brown,
gonna yeah
like somebody that's gonna just produce.
yeah.
But if not, then you hold on to your lottery ticket and you see what happens.
Yeah, I even think too before we move on, it's hard to trade for him because people still have that thought in their head. They're like, I took this guy with the 102 or the 101, and they still have that thought of like he was taken fourth overall. He was this like generational prospect. So it's hard to get him because people are gonna want more back because they feel like they're selling low. Even if you get the 104, the 103, they're gonna be like, I don't know because it feels bad after what you took him and what he was supposed to be in a class like this compared to in a class that he was in. Yeah, it's tough, and it's gonna be something we're gonna talk about a little more throughout the offseason because the more we hear about who's this offense gonna run through, because rarely does a team run an offense through a tight end. Like that was the last person was Kelsey. I don't think it happens again. I don't think a tight end even as good as Bowers. I don't know if Bowers had like a wide receiver one, like a good wide receiver, I don't know if the offense still runs through him. Maybe it does, but it's very rare. So I'm curious to see if they kind of get everybody involved, or they're going to run the offense through Marv, move him around, try to get him, try to move him around so he's not stagnant on the outside. And yeah, I don't know, but we'll take a little bit of a break about from Marvin Harrison, and let's talk about Cam Ward. I mean, this is your guy. I'm going to let you talk about him a little bit because I think we share very different opinions on his rookie year and what he's going to be. So yeah, let's just I want to hear what you have to say because I might have I'm probably going to be on the opposite end of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to keep going first as the guest, but I'm a Cam Ward believer still. Let's talk about for me his pros, the flashes. Like there are just some throws, there are some reads that he makes that you
Oh
only
yeah,
see from guys like Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Like there are things that he does that only the elite of the elites can do. Um, and ceilings are really, really fun for me. Like when a guy still has that type of ceiling, I have a hard time just like, I don't know, giving up and thinking that they're not going to be great. So I thought the flashes were definitely there. I think that Dable adds a lot to Cam Ward. You get a new offensive coordinator. You get a couple of new pass catchers and Wandale, Carnell Tate, both guys that can get open quick. They're going to have steady hands. Like I saw that picture on Twitter of Carnell Tate at rookie minicamp, and his hands just swallow up the football. Like they said, he would have had
yeah,
above average hand size for an offensive lineman. Like I'm
yeah. He's
a
got massive hands.
pretty big fan of Carnell Tate, pretty big fan
Me too.
of that offense as a whole. I am a lot worried about the O line. Their O
Hmm.
line consistently got torched. And if there's one way that you can destroy a quarterback, whether it's getting him hurt all the time or just making their footwork worse, making their processing worse. It's having them play behind a bad offensive line. See, Joe Burrow with all the injuries, CJ Stroud with his inconsistencies that he's began to develop. Like, I think playing behind a bad offensive line, it it can really, really make a quarterback worse. So I would want to see that improve, and I also think that there was some questionable decision making at times last year. Like he would have stretches during games where it's like, Cam Ward, what are you doing? Um,
Yeah,
I think that's a rookie quarterback thing. I choose to invest in the flashes right now. He's consensus QB 15, 16 range. Um, in my research through the leagues that we've played in, no one has ever won a championship in Superflex without at least two top 15 quarterbacks if the quarterbacks stayed healthy all year. And so the guys whose quarterbacks got hurt and still were able to win or have a top three finish, they had a quarterback that was projected to finish in the top 15 and definitely top 15 in points per game. I
right.
think Cam Ward gets there. I think for what he's currently being valued at, like if you have a veteran on your team and like I say all the time, you're stuck in the middle, I would say go get Cam Ward. Like if you have a CMC or a Saquon or an AJ Brown or like one of those guys who Devontae Adams to a lesser degree, you'd probably have to do Devontae plus some stuff. But yeah, I would be going to absolutely buy up Cam Ward because I think you're getting at the minimum a QB2 for the next 5 to 10 years, and I'm taking the shot on him.
Yeah. Um. Well, honestly, that definitely made me think a little bit differently. It's hard to kind of erase. I mean, Carnell Tate's awesome. I think he's gonna help. I actually was scared. I was like, I mean, the Cardinals ended up taking Love, but I was like, I really just hope that they take. I wish that they take. I didn't expect them to take Tate, but I was pleasantly surprised. Is the best way to put it. Funny thing enough, Cam Ward was I think quarterback 6, 15, 16 coming in. He is quarterback 16 now, so he hasn't really lost any value. He's quarterback 22 for me. And I have to go back and check and see who's in front of him, but 11 points per game last year. I know he didn't have a lot of help. He had a bunch of like, I think he had like Io Manor, um, Jameer DK, Calvin Ridley didn't play last year. Gunnar Helm looked like the best player on the field, catching the ball at times. Um,
Tony Pollard is your running
yeah,
back.
Tony Pollard. Yeah, I mean, as much as I love Tony Pollard, he's definitely not what he was before that ankle injury. But yeah, he's in this like bucket with like Bryce Young his rookie year, Pickett, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence is like the only outlier really. Justin Fields, Darnold eventually turned it around, won a Super Bowl last year, but Josh Rosen, I don't know. I think it makes me feel a little bit better now thinking about it that Dayball is the offensive coordinator there. I feel a little bit better about that. You know, they take Tate, they signed Wan'Dale Robinson for a ridiculous amount of money. I think that was insanity, personally. But yeah, I mean, I just think for me, where I'm at right now, he's going between the 104 106, so kind of like around the same place as Marv is right now. That's like Brees range. Burden, I love Burden. Burden's really high for me. Jordan Tyson, potentially. I mean, Makai Lemon range. Rashi Rice. Like if I was spooked, like kind of like I am, if anybody's spooked out there about Cam Ward, like I just find it so hard not to move off for like a safer asset. Or if you're competing and you can tear down to like Stafford for a year, plus like a big piece or a pick or something, I'd be doing that. It's just hard to get out of my head like some of these guys who, not that he fell flat, he didn't have a lot of help, but that's kind of how we thought about Bryce Young. Like, okay, once he gets help around him, he'll be fine. Now I know Bryce Young's like 5 inches smaller and about 40 less pounds. I was
Pause.
a Bryce Young guy, so I know that I'm a little guilty for being on that train, but sometimes it doesn't always work out. But yeah, Dayball does help him being there. But yeah, some of the guys he's going around, I find it so hard. Like if I can move off of him, um, I think I'm going to, especially right now. Like nobody's playing. Everybody saw them take Carnell Tate. They signed Wandale. New regime coming in. Dayball's the OC. I think Salah's a pretty good head coach. I think I think when he was with the Jets, he was just kind of. I mean, what else do you have to work with? Um, there's like no quarterback. You had to work with Zach Wilson, which I don't even know. He may become something. He may be like one of these guys who bounces back like a Darnold, but I seriously doubt it. He was pretty bad. But yeah, I think it's just how you feel about these rookie quarterbacks, or I guess second year quarterbacks coming in who didn't have good rookie years. Um, but he will hold value. He held value though. So I mean, if you have Fernando Mendoza, and you're scared about a similar thing, I think you can feel fine holding him for at least 1 year to see what you got. But yeah, I think as much as I do agree with you, I think I'm gonna move off of Cam Ward if I can. Like if I can get a Brees Hall, Luther Burden, like a top six pick, I think I'm gonna do it just to be a little bit safe. If I can get a 27 first, like projected, like I mean, preferably not late because that just feels like I'm selling really low. But yeah, just kind of how I feel right now. I think I'm just on the opposite end of I I find it really hard to trust these guys who kind of face plant in their rookie year, regardless of Tate being there. Um, you know, New offensive coordinator coming in, whatever, Wandell being there. But yeah, just kind of where I'm at right now. I mean, do you got anything else to add? Anything to sway me a little bit more? Because yeah, Cam Ward's a tough one for me. It's difficult to get over that what I saw last year. 11 points per game is that's rough, man.
I think that I look at his points per game in a vacuum, and I think that Cam Ward is one of those guys that you just have to evaluate as a football player and a person. Like every time I've ever heard him talk in an interview, and maybe it's him selling me and swaying me, but he's very, very locked in on football. He loves the game of football. He's a student of the game of football. I think he
JUCO guy.
understands the game at a high level. He won in college when he had help. Like Miami hadn't won anything until Cam Ward got there. And I mean, even back when we were playing college baseball, like Cam Ward, I knew who Cam Ward was because of UIW, because he was just
Yeah, he was
putting
a
up
target word.
stupid numbers there. Um, so like I refuse to believe that somebody that talented because like with Josh Rosen, Zach Wilson, like a lot of the famous busts, it's like you never saw the flashes. And with Cam
Zach
Ward,
Wilson. Zach
I
Wilson has
personally
some.
never saw the flashes. I saw a lot
Come
more
on, bro.
erratic throws, a lot
Yeah,
more like Zach
cannon.
Wilson did have some. He had Garrett Wilson on his team.
He had a
Um,
cannon. Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson had arm talent. Just. He
Yeah.
had no idea
The,
who was throwing, where the ball was going most of the time. Not very accurate, unfortunately.
but
But
I see it with Cam Ward still, and it's one of those guys where it's like historic precedent isn't great, but also I don't know. I just have to believe that, like, because I also look at like guys like Joe Burrow, and was it Burrow's rookie year that he got hurt, or Deshaun's rookie year he got hurt too? I know Deshaun.
I know Deshaun tore his ACL rookie year.
No.
I know that's implanted in our head. We're Texans fans, by the way, so
Yeah.
we were scarred from Deshaun Watson getting injured and then him deciding he wanted to do some other stuff off the
Yeah.
field. But yeah, I think Burrow. I think he tore his ACL his rookie at the end of his rookie year. I think, and then
Let me,
he because
let
they
me,
made the Super Bowl his third year or
yeah.
his second year. So he came back from injury. They drafted Jamar. Yeah, I mean, he shows flashes like Cam Ward. Like he has a lot of arm talent. It's clear that he fits into this mold of guys who can extend and then he can do a little bit with his feet too. Like he's not a zero when it comes to he can probably average I think in a best season like a best case scenario probably 300 to 400 rushing yards, maybe 500. In his best season, like he definitely is mobile. I just worry about like historically is that offensive line going to hold up? Um, and yeah, I mean the entire thing. I'm just kind of hoping you just gotta if you're on the side of Cam Ward, you just gotta hope that Tate's as awesome as we believe he is, and that Dayball can elevate the offense a little bit because that was rough last year. That was you cannot have that again. Another year like that from Cam Ward, and I mean, it's bad. Like he's JJ McCarthy, but you know, hopefully he doesn't have that type of rookie year. I'm not gonna try to put that juju on him, but yeah, he's gonna be viewed not exactly the same, but similarly because he face planted in his second year, and then going into year three, it's like, yeah, you're just praying at that point. But yeah, I guess we'll move on here. I mean, we'll move on to Bucky Irving. I know we spent a little bit more time on Cam Ward and Marv, but we'll try to go a little bit quicker. But I mean, we don't mind these episodes being a little longer. I think people hearing our full perspective is somewhat important. If we need to tweak it down the line, we will. But yeah, let me know. What are you doing with Bucky right now? Because last season, I don't know if you remember, but he had that weird off the field stuff when he got injured. I don't know. I still don't know what was going on. We had like reports that I didn't even know if he was going to play. Like when he finally was like cleared and everything. When he came off IR, they signed Kenneth Gainwell. They gave him like I think 14 million, like guaranteed. So like it's not nothing. And my worry with him going into year three, right, with Bucky.
Hmm.
Yeah, year three. Yeah, how much? Because Sean Tucker was taking touches for him down the stretch. I don't know if it was like injury thing, like coming back, like Tucker was playing well. Rashad White had a role, but does Gainwell like? I think he's probably a little bit better. Rashad White. Does he take receiving away from him? That's what kind of like intrigued me about Bucky was he's such a good receiver, and so I'm a little bit worried that he's not going to lose the role, but it's going to be taken away to where he's not going to be able to be, as if he's not as efficient with his touches, like in that receiving role isn't there. Like what's the ceiling for him? Like is he just going to be Kyron on a worse team from what we saw? Because Blake Corum kind of ate into his role last year. Like how you feeling right now?
I mean, Bucky is the definition of polarizing, because
Yeah,
Bucky has things that I love, and Bucky has things that are terrifying from a fantasy value perspective.
a
Like,
little bit.
the pros are that he does have a season of being RB13 in PPR under his belt. Um, and in 2024, that was a pretty big year for running backs, like the Derrick Henrys and the Saquons of the world. The Tyron had a ton of touchdowns. So like he was a very good running back in a season with a ton of good running backs.
Yeah,
His yards per catch haven't gone down, and even with the injury, his targets per game were relatively similar from 2024 to 2025. Um, so he's a very productive player when he's healthy. The cons, though, like he doesn't have top 3 round draft capital, which is a thing. It's been very, very rare for anybody to ever work out besides like I think it's like Arian Foster and Alfred Morris to have like multiple fantasy relevant seasons with worse than round three draft capital. And
Yeah, I
then
mean, you've had guys where, like, kind of you're saying, like, draft capital. As much as we think like Bucky's really good, I mean, we've had Kyron, who's kind of broken that mold a little bit. But teams like if they didn't invest like a lot of draft capital into you, they seem to like be a little bit easier. Like they find it a little bit easier to move on from them. Like I don't envision the Patriots, the Browns. Like it's harder to move on from like Judkins and Henderson because they spent like early second round draft capital. Marion Hampton, they spent a first round pick on him. It's harder for an NFL team because they invested a lot more money to move on from these guys. But yeah, just can like if Bucky has another season like that, did they replace him in the draft next year? It's a pretty good running back class. I'm not gonna lie. Like looking early, things can change. But like I mean, we've had Kyron recently. I was scared for Scadaboo before the draft. Not gonna lie. Yeah, I think I'll finish up there. Is just we've seen it like with Aaron Jones, Kyron recently, but it is kind of scary if you didn't get a high draft pick. Teams feel like they just can replace you a little bit easier. Like I think with Chase Brown, like every offseason, everybody's terrified that the Bengals are gonna draft a running back because they didn't spend high draft capital. But yeah, I think it just kind of depends how you feel about Bucky as a talent, and then if he doesn't have a good year, the Buccaneers could replace him in the draft. They could draft a running back pretty decently high if he's injured, a little bit of a smaller guy, and they feel like I can get like a better running back if they go round one, round two, something like that. But yeah, I want to know how you're kind of thinking about that as well.
no, yeah, I agree. I mean, I've got Bucky. Obviously, me and you made a trade in one of our leagues where I received Bucky. I'm probably looking for the opportunity to flip Bucky into something, um, I don't know, maybe a little long term safer.
Yeah,
I'm
safer.
hoping that he kind of returns to form and that people start to buy the hype again, and then I can sell him high. Like I think he's a good buy low if people
Yeah,
are giving you a low price for him. Um, and like
100%.
he's still a great flex on a championship team if he returns to form. Like RB13, nothing to sneeze at. You know, he's got a season like that under his belt. I don't know how repeatable it is for him. Um, and like you do worry about the injuries, you worry about the investment, you worry about Gainwell and Sean Tucker. Um, I don't know. I still
Yeah,
think Bucky Irving's a very, very talented player. I still think he's great at both pass catching and running the football. And so
yeah,
it's not a
yeah. I
bad
think
time to buy if somebody will give you the right price for him.
yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think as much as I try to talk myself out of Bucky, I know we made a trade. I think that trade actually finalized. It was Jeremiah Love. Um, then I got Omar Cooper, and I think Denzel Boston, the early second round pick that I got back from it. And you got Parker Washington, Bucky Irving, and Brock Bowers. But yeah, yeah, I think it just depends. Like I think right now at these prices, I'm probably gonna see what I can get for Bucky if I, my other leagues, if possible, if someone's lower on him. Because I mean, I think that year in 2024 when he finished, I think RB13. I don't even think
Mhm.
he didn't get the starting role. Like he didn't take over until like midway through the season, maybe like week 7, week 8, and he was incredible. Like Rashad White was reduced to dust that year. He was awesome as a receiver. He's really good. Like he is very elusive in the open field. Like he makes guys miss. He's a good runner between the tackles. So I think I'm just gonna bet on that. And I think he's between 105 and 107. If I can get him in like if I can get from like the 108, which is probably like Kenyon Sadiq, the 109, like Ty Simpson, Omar Cooper range, I'm doing it. I don't mind. Like it just kind of depends. The conversation may start like KC, Concepcion, and Jadarian Price. Like, are you willing to move off of one of them for Bucky Irving this next season? But yeah, I think if I think I'm probably gonna bet on the talent of Bucky because he's really good. You're just kind of hoping that the Buccaneers don't, you know, throw Gainwell out there on passing downs and take away because receiving. I mean, it really is everything to unless you're Derrick Henry. to a like a fantasy ceiling and just, week to week having that floor that's going to, put you inside, you know, top 7, 8, running backs in fantasy. I don't think he has like a crazy ceiling, but he has a good enough ceiling where I think he's got like 18 point per game type of ceiling in him. So, real quick though, actually, before we go, Jadarian Price or Bucky Irving? Like, how do you, if you had to choose there, I don't know where you're taking Price at the moment in rookie drafts or where you would take him, but are you taking Bucky or Price?
It depends on my team's roster construction. I
If you're
don't
competing for this next year.
I don't love if I'm competing, I'm probably taking Bucky.
Okay.
Um, I think if depending on when Charbonnet comes back, because he is supposed to come back
Yeah.
at some point next year. Um,
It's going to be late, dude. It's going to be late.
it's
It's
gonna be
like,
late.
yeah, he's surgery in February. Like, he's going to miss more. He's going to be on the pup for at least the first 8 weeks. I think. I doubt they rush him
Yeah,
back, but
yeah.
yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
tough.
Just because like first round draft capital, he was behind Jeremiah Love. Jadarian Price is one of the hardest players to evaluate in probably the last
Hmm.
5 years because
Dude,
it's there's
people love
not a lot
him.
yeah, there's not a lot of production, but like there's flashes, and he's got first round draft capital on the team that just won the Super Bowl, and
Yeah,
there's not
yeah.
really a ton of backfield competition, so he can carve out a role. So
Hmm.
if I'm contending, I don't know. I would probably want Price just as the long term asset, anyways. I think, um,
Yeah. I
but
think
I
it's
think that
smarter.
I think that Bucky is like I mean, like, yeah, I've got Price as my RB 14,
Okay, well, you're
and
higher than him.
Bucky is my RB 16, and
Okay.
I've got Josh Jacobs at 15, and then Derrick Henry at 17. So that's kind of that like tier that I have them all in, where I like Bucky Irving, but I don't know. That's
Yeah,
that's a
I,
tough call.
yeah, I think especially your point of view too. If you're trying to if you want a guy who's going to accrue value, probably Jadarian Price because he's the minute we hear stuff about him in training camp and we start seeing them in pads and we start seeing Jadarian Price RB1, um, because that dude is jacked. There's just no shot he's 202 pounds. Like when I saw him weighing at the combine, I was like, what? Like he looks like he's 215. But yeah, the moment we see him in pads, the moment we see that Charbonnet's going to be on the pup for like at least the first 4 games, potentially 8 games, he may not return till week 12. I mean, he's going to just absolutely skyrocket, especially when we see a week from him where he just goes absolutely nuclear. We see like one run from him in preseason, it's over. Like you might as well just
Yeah,
take Price and if you want to sell him later or like down tier to Bucky for like a potential like first or another big piece on top, it's probably the smartest way to go. But in a vacuum, I think I'm probably going to bet on Bucky for 2026. That's just kind of where I'm at. But yeah, let's shift over here because this is going to be actually maybe one of the maybe not one of the longer segments, but probably the most interesting one because we got a bunch of guys here. We're gonna clump the year 3 wide receivers. We're not gonna talk about neighbors. We talked about Marv already, kind of his own separate thing because I think that he's a little bit more polarizing. But neighbors coming off the injury, he's already like a top 5, 6 receiver in Dynasty. We don't have to talk too much about him as long as he's healthy. I think he's gonna be awesome. But Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr., Pearsall, and Worthy. But let's talk about Odunze first, and I guess I'll start with him because I loved him coming out a couple years ago, and I thought potentially he was the best receiver in the class. I mean, this whole class last year was so weird. Ladd didn't have a great year. Neighbors injured. Brian Thomas Jr. just disappeared off the face of the earth. Marv injured. Odunze had like a really good beginning of the year, and then he kind of got injured, and then Luther Burden and Colson Loveland decided that they were going to be really good, which is no surprise. But yeah, it's kind of a weird offense. Not a weird offense. It's an offense I want pieces of. I just come out and say it. Like I want any piece of this offense I can get. I want Loveland. I want Burden. I want Odunze. I want Caleb Williams. I'll take DeAndre Swift. I don't really care. But yeah, he's my wide receiver 18. He's consensus wide receiver 17, 18 around there. So I'm about like at market with him. Yeah, I want to be higher on him, but it is tough because we don't know how the pecking order is going to shake out between him, Loveland, Burden. That's actually the first question I want to ask you is how do you envision that pecking order shaking out? Because, dude, I don't, it really is up in the air here. Like, is Odunze going to be the JMO? That like kind of like how we used the Lions guys. Is Luther Burden going to be Amon Ra? Is Loveland is just a better version of Laporta? Like, is he going to build offense around him? My gut says Burden, but I kind of still want Odunze at his price. Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts because I think potentially he's a little bit. He hasn't fallen as much as I thought he was going to. So yeah, I think people are still fine about Odun or feel fine about Odunze, but like, how do you view this offense shaking out? Because I mean, I'm sure this offense is going to be pretty cool this next year.
Yeah, I think that the thing to know when investing in the Chicago Bears in general is that there are going to be weeks where you wish you had all of them, and there are going to be weeks where it's a dart throw between the three to see who gets the target volume, and there are going to be weeks where you wish like you had none of them.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that Ben Johnson has done in particular very well, with kind of the exception of Amon Ra because he's such a special football player, where it's just so hard to find a guy that's that physical, that good at run blocking, that good at getting open quickly, knows for the end zone, great short to intermediate route runner, tough, like can go over the middle of the field and take a hit. Like Amon Ra is awesome. He's actually my dynasty wide receiver four. I'm a little bit higher on him than
Oh wow.
consensus. His consensus has him around 6 or 7. I would take him over Jettas at this point. He's just been productive year after year after year after year.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
if I was a betting man, I would bet on Burden being that one. But I also don't think any of them are built like Amon Ra. I think that Caleb's going to distribute the ball within that offense. I think that Loveland and Burden are probably going to be more productive. They're probably going to get more targets. I think Adunze is going to have big weeks. I think he's going to catch awesome touchdowns. There's going to be times where Adunze is great. I don't think he's going to continue to be a wide receiver 40 finisher for the rest of his career. But I also don't know if the price that you pay for Adunze, if he's ever going to consistently live up to the price that you pay for him. Like, and then my kind of last note before I let you jump in on Adunze, Ben Johnson did not draft Rome Adunze. And if I've learned anything playing sports, and I know he had the first round investment, he had all the draft capital in the world, and I don't think Ben Johnson has like given up on him or is just not going to use him. But I also think that there's something to be said about you being a certain coach's guy. And this is me kind of bucking the analytics and bucking all of
Yeah.
that for half a second and saying, we're going to find out this year if Adunze is still a Ben Johnson guy or not, because it's very, very clear that he loves Loveland and that I think Burden kind of had that little rookie breakout at the end of last year that a lot of the guys who turn into top producers have. And Roma Dunze was drafted 1 year before Ben Johnson got there.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would kind of throw his draft capital away because it's like, hey, this isn't the guy that drafted him. And I've seen it happen in sports a lot where if you're not the guy of the person who becomes the guy, like when I think of the Chicago Bears, I think of Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. But I mostly think of Ben Johnson. And so I think this is a pretty critical year for Adunze where he's got to step it up, or I could see him getting lost in that offense.
No, yeah, I think I agree. To kind of wrap up Rome, in my opinion, I think at the very worst, and maybe this is like I love JMO. I've come around on Jamison Williams. I could not have been more out on a prospect like a couple years ago. I thought he was a dead asset. He like lost his rookie year, ACL, got suspended because he was gambling. Um, I think at the worst he's a better JMO in this offense. Like he's gonna have big weeks for you, but there's some weeks where he's gonna catch two passes for 9 yards, and you're gonna hate him. And there's weeks where you're gonna be like, you know what? Like he's almost gonna be like a. I think at the peak he can be like a better JMO, but like maybe a little bit worse T Higgins. I think he's as good talent wise as T Higgins, but the offense is a little bit less congested in Cincinnati, other than Jamar Chase. I mean, you got three guys in Chicago and just two in Cincinnati, but yeah, I think at the very worst, I'm still going to be in on Odunze regardless. He just may be frustrating some weeks because we know the Bears like to run the ball. And if Burden and Loveland are eating, then it probably means Odunze is catching a pass or two, and that's it for the night. But I think he's going to have some big weeks. Like, he is the vertical threat on that team. He can beat dudes deep, wins contested catches. He's a big receiver, so I'm sure he's going to be involved around the red zone. But yeah, I think if I had to choose the pecking order, I'd probably go Burden and then coin flip between Loveland and Odunze. I think that they'll both have their weeks, but I feel like this offense is leaning more towards Burden being kind of the Amon Ra, maybe not as good, but going to soak up a lot of those targets because he's a little bit more available, not as much downfield, and he's going to be a monster out to the catch. But yeah, I think it just tells, if anything, it just probably shows that we're pretty high on Burden. But yeah, Odunze is still going to be a good. I'm personally, I'm buying him if I can. Especially for some of these rookie receivers. If I can get him, if I can trade the 105 for Odunze and move off Makai Lemon, I love Concepcion. I don't mind trading the 106 or 107 from Odunze. May sound lofty, but yeah, the only way I move off of Odunze is if I can get like a mid 27 first and maybe a small piece on top. Other than that, I mean that 27 class looks insane. Other than that, I'm rolling with Odunze this next year. I think this Bears offense is going to be pretty damn fun to watch. I think that we all saw in the playoffs last year. We were watching playoff games together, and Caleb's really good. So I think he's going to be able to, these guys are going to all have their weeks. But yeah, let's move over to Brian Thomas.
Brian
Oh,
Thomas.
dude. Oh my God. Last year was so bad. I was very high. I had Brian Thomas Jr. inside my like 7, 8, 9 receivers in Dynasty. We were taking him in like the first two rounds of redraft. Uh, has there been a bigger bust in like redraft fantasy like that you can think of other than injuries? Like Jefferson was objectively terrible last year too, but dude, Brian Thomas Jr. was I don't know how to explain it. He got outed by Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington. So I don't know how to feel about him. You go ahead and start this because I have no clue what to do with him. Yeah, that's where I'm at currently.
Yeah, so I've got Brian Thomas Jr. in one of our leagues. Um, and the truth is that in order to win a fantasy league, you're likely going to need a top five quarterback. Your tight end, it's a little more variable. Like I went and I've looked at all of the leagues that we've played in. And generally the winners or the high finishers in the league have multiple top five overall at their position, wide receivers and running backs, and they've got usually a quarterback that finishes in the top seven or so. Um, that's kind of the minimum benchmark of what it takes to win. And here's why I'm not out on Brian Thomas Jr. yet, because he has a season where he finished as the wide receiver five. So the production has been there before. Where I am terrified right now as a Brian Thomas Jr. owner is that in the same way that I talk about Rome Dunze, Brian Thomas Jr. is not a Liam Cohen guy. Brian Thomas Jr. in his first year in the Liam Cohen offense got completely lost. I personally think he was playing hurt. I think his shoulder was a much bigger deal than people thought it was. I think it made him afraid to go over the middle. I think as somebody who has dislocated his shoulder, torn labrum, all that stuff, there are things that you do that you kind of hold back because you're afraid that it's going to pop out or tear again. Like that's human nature. You're going to go into fight or flight. Um, and you could tell that he wasn't nearly as comfortable going over the middle. He didn't look comfortable at all. I had read that he was dealing with the loss of a friend too, so take a second
Yeah,
to
I heard about that.
acknowledge that as a human being, like, hey, there are things that are bigger than sports. And like, take care of yourself mentally if you're out there watching, and just remember that, sports are cool. It's great to be a fan, but it's not life. Um, I think purely from a talent perspective, I hate Brian Thomas Jr. in this offense, and I'm not even a Trav fan. I'm lower on Trav than most. Um, but like Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, like I think the Jaguars are aggressively pursuing what they believe is like a window that they can win in. Now, as a Jaguars hater, I don't think that they're actually a Super Bowl capable team. Um, but I am very scared of Brian Thomas Jr. getting lost in that offense. However, I think if your team's a contender like mine is in that league, you do what you need to do to try to get a guy that, even if he doesn't have that superstar ceiling, might at least provide you the floor that you would need to win. I think if
Yeah,
you're in the middle or if your team isn't great, I'm holding on to Brian Thomas Jr. and hoping that he gets healthy, hoping that he can kind of come back mentally a little bit, and then if all else fails, get on a different team. Because you see that happen in the NFL where like situations are volatile, something can change instantly, and like all of a sudden people like DJ Moore again because he's with Josh Allen in Buffalo. Um, like AJ Brown won a Super Bowl 2 years ago with Philly. He's probably on his way out the door. Like the NFL is such a volatile league. And from an investment perspective, it's like if I had a stock and I saw the stock get all the way up to like $150 a share and then it tanked back down to $45 a share, like I'm probably not going to sell it because it's like, hey, I know it could go back up that high again. Maybe you regret not having sold it at the peak of its value, um, but it's very hard to let go of something like that. So that's kind of where I'm at on him. He's tough. There's a lot to unpack with BTJ.
yeah, dude. The Jaguars. I mean, we're not Jaguars, but we're Texans fans. So if we can find a way to hate on the Jaguars, I think we always take the opportunity to do it. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is like the popular guy we like to hate on because he decided he was finally going to play well for the first time. Really, I mean, he had a somewhat of a good year like a couple years ago. I don't want to hate too much. I like Trevor Lawrence, but Brian Thomas Jr. Listen to this though. So his rookie year, this is what confuses me because as bad a year as he had last year, in his rookie season he had 17 points per game, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. There's just no way that the player we saw last year is the guy we get moving forward. Like I refuse to believe it. I mean, my rankings don't show it. I'm a wide receiver 30 right now. I'm incredibly low, but it's also because I'm just, dude, I, I'm a wimp right now. I'm so scared because if he has another year, like I was hoping he would get traded to Buffalo. Buffalo would send a second round pick for DJ Moore, when they probably could have sent their second round pick plus another two or something for Brian Thomas Jr., who's a lot cheaper. That's just kind of why. I mean, I'm hating on the Bills now too, but yeah, I don't know if I don't know what to do with him because this pecking order right now. I mean, Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, Travis Hunter. We don't even know how much he's going to play on offense. and you guess everybody's kind of forgotten, it seems like, about Brian Thomas Jr. I'm doing like underdog drafts right now. I've started kind of early. Brian Thomas Jr. Parker Washington comes off the board first. He's like a sixth, seventh round pick. It's like Brian Thomas Jr. and then Jacoby Myers, so they're kind of all somewhat around the same range, but nobody has any clue like how this team is going to operate at wide receiver. Travis Hunter's going to like the 150s, so he's kind of like, if anybody at cost, Travis Hunter. I know you don't like, you're not a fan, but I think he's too good to not be put on the field as a receiver. That's just me. But Brian Thomas Jr. right now, I think if you have him, personally, I cannot sell him low. Like unless I can move off of like unless I can go get Waddle, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. Like if someone will, if I can find a way to operate around it and like pivot to a guy like that, then sure, I'll do it to get off of risk. But if Brian Thomas Jr. returns to any sort of form that he was his rookie year, I mean he's going right back to where he was. Maybe not quite, but close to top 10. Um, you know, amongst dynasty wide receivers because it's hard not to unsee that he was so good as a rookie. I just don't know where that went, and I don't know. I think at this point I kind of just hoping that the Jaguars trade him because there's too many guys there. I mean, we'll see what happens throughout the offseason. We still got a long way to go, so I'm sure we'll talk about him again. But let's move on to these next two guys. We'll talk a little bit quicker about them because they're not as highly valued guys. But Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Worthy, Pearsall, Mike Evans comes in. Um, I mean, George Kittle, he's going to be back eventually. Chris McCaffrey. They just drafted Dejon Stripling, whatever that means. We were going to have a fun about that. Yeah, I don't know. I love Pearsall personally as a talent, but yeah, I don't know what his ceiling is on this team. I don't know exactly where he fits in. He looked good when he's on the field, like at the beginning of the year before he got hurt, but he hasn't been able to stay on the field. I mean, not to his detriment. Like year one, he got shot, but yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I'm still somewhat of a believer. I think I have him at wide receiver 38. So he's kind of not falling too far. But yeah, how you feel on that? We talked a lot about pecking orders on this on in this video of like Mike Evans, Kittle, CMC. He's easily like until Kittle once Kittle comes back, he's like the fourth option, like in terms of who's getting the ball in this offense. So I don't know. How are you feeling about him? Are you buying? Are you selling? Are you holding at the moment?
I mean, the thing that's so intriguing about Pearsall is that, I mean, first off, coming into the NFL, he had great film, very, very high separation metrics. Um, like,
He was
oh,
also a reach.
yeah, well, also a reach. The Niners, like, no one was expecting him to go that high, but it was a little bit more understandable than Stribling because it was like, oh, you know what? Like, Ayuk is unhappy, Debo's getting older. Like, they are going to need a wide receiver eventually. And Pearsall's had some pops. Like, he's had some weeks where he has gobbled up targets, where he's scored touchdowns. Like, I mean, I was looking through his
Yeah.
like individual weeks, and it's like the production as a whole is super underwhelming. You're looking at a guy that I think he scores between like 8 or 9 points per game, and he's had weeks where he's gone for close to 30. So, who is Ricky Pearsall in that offense? I have no idea.
I don't
Um,
know.
I probably would rather have a lot of the guys in his tier because I have him in a tier with Christian Watson, Worthy, Wandale, Mike Evans, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, QJ, Pittman, Jaden Higgins, and then Omar Cooper Jr. That's like all the guys that I have in tier 8 with my wide receivers. I would rather have him than maybe like a Josh Downs or a Jaden Higgins, I think, just because he has showed flashes of being a productive player. But like I think I would rather have like QJ, Jaden Reed,
Ooh,
maybe.
QJ. Wow.
Yeah, I like QJ personally. I think that like his pops have been more
I guess
consistent.
so. I'm being
Um,
disrespectful to Quentin Johnson, but
like Quentin Johnson has some weeks where he wins people games, and that's kind of
Quentin
all pure.
Johnson's shown more at this point, I think, than Pearsall, so that's
Yeah.
fair. I mean, he's been
Like,
better. He had a good year last year.
you get a guy like Wandale who will score 12 to 14 a game. He's going to go 6 for 60 or 10 for 30. Whatever whatever it takes to get those 12 points a game.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, I would roll the dice on him having some big weeks, especially if I'm a contending team. Like, I've got Josh Downs in one of my leagues where I'm a contender. I would much rather have Ricky Pearsall just because the chances of
Moved
Ricky
down to 30.
Pearsall winning a week are higher. But I'm also not going to move him into the tier above until we start seeing some consistent production. And the tier above, I've got Washington, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Jordan Addison, Terry McLaurin. Like, those guys are productive. Those guys,
Yeah,
their bad weeks are a lot fewer. So that's kind of where I'm at with Ricky right now.
agreed. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel pretty similarly, but maybe not. I mean, I think I've seen enough from Xavier Worthy. Hook 'em horns, by the way. I am the biggest University of Texas fan on planet Earth, and unfortunately, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and Matthew Golden look like they're a couple of the. I mean, can we, Cam Coleman, please, goodness sake, can we get a good Texas? Can we get a Texas wide receiver that can A, catch the ball, um, B, I mean, Golden can get open, um, actually get thrown the ball, and it's not 150 pounds. Xavier Worthy is 150 pounds, and I have no clue how to feel about Xavier Worthy because last year I think he did get kind of a bad like he got his shoulder separated on night one by Travis Kelsey on like the third play of the game. And honestly, this is why it's like hard for me because he played through it, and kudos to him for that because he's 150 pounds, and if he gets hit again, his entire arm's probably coming off. But yeah, him and Mahomes, like Mahomes is coming back from injury. I don't know who's going to start at quarterback. He doesn't separate very well. He can't get off a press. They try to get him like Rashi Rice is like kind of taking the targets that I would love Worthy to have, like screen passes, get him out in space, use him short area quickness. And even when Worthy does get open downfield, Mahomes sails the ball 15 feet over his head, um, or can't get the ball to him, or Worthy drops the ball. I don't know how to feel about Worthy. Worthy's my wide receiver 51. He's very low for me. Hook 'em horns always, but goodness, man, like year three, that's what we're hoping for. Like we just hope that we see 12 points a game. Because if he has a Quentin Johnson season from last year, I think people feel a little bit better. But he's never getting, in my opinion, he's never getting inside the top 35 dynasty. What maybe top 30. I mean, he's not getting inside the top 30 for sure at this point because I think people know at this point, being how low he is, that he's just never going to be. He's better in best ball. Like he's going to be a guy that gets you spike weeks and hard to put in your lineup consistently.
Yeah. I think when I was doing my worthy homework, the thing that stood out the most was that 29% of his points in his rookie year when he finished as wide receiver three were from touchdowns. Um, a lot of the elite, like top 10 finish seasons for wide receivers, that number is closer to like 15 to 18%. And that's even with guys scoring like 15 touchdowns in a year. Like, I looked at one Jamar Chase year, and it was like 18% of his fantasy points were due to touchdowns, and he had like 15 touchdowns that year. Um, so the fact that Worthy was so touchdown dependent in year one, it gave me a lot of cause for concern. I think moving forward, I was never super high on him. I've never owned Worthy shares. I've never had a trade where Worthy's been a part of it. I passed on him in rookie drafts originally and kind of we have a lot of UT fans just because a lot of us in our leagues are located near Austin. And we had a lot of guys that were like super excited about that landing spot and super excited because he was a UT guy. And I was
How
like,
could you
yeah,
not be though? Mahomes? I mean,
yeah. And rightfully so, because there was a lot of like, oh, he could be the next Tyreek Hill. Um, and I was just gonna let other people do that.
yeah.
Worthy's never been
Speaking of
for
Tyreek, did you hear about the Chiefs are looking at? I mean, I
yeah,
would not be surprised if Tyreek signs with. I mean, I think Tyreek either retires or he signs with the Chiefs.
yeah,
There's like rumblings about him signing with the Raiders, but if he signs with the Chiefs, I mean, Worthy is sent to the shadow realm for at least this next year.
yeah.
Because I mean, Kelsey's still there; he's still going to get targets. Rashi Rice, assuming he doesn't drive his car into other people's cars or whatever he's doing off the field. I'm sorry, I don't mean to slander the man on here, but Mike, can we stay out of trouble for goodness sakes? Um, yeah, and Tyreek comes in. I think as long as Tyreek is healthy, like Tyreek's still a quality receiver, unless he's just totally like the ankle's totally destroyed. I don't know exactly, but he's a freak of nature, and if he's in that offense, where he's gonna be like a guy you just when you have a bye, you just kind of hoping that he can get you 8 points in a week. But yeah, at that point, it just depends how you feel about Worthy. I just think it's hard to be in on him at this point, and if you have him, you kind of just have to hold him and hope that he finds some value down the line where you can move off of him. If you can get a second for him right now, are you taking that? Like a 2027 second?
Yeah, for 27, I think mid to early second, I'm probably doing it. Definitely not any of this year's seconds. Like I would, or even late first. Like I think the worst player that I would probably take over Worthy is like Sadiq. I don't think that like I think I would still probably rather have Worthy over Omar Cooper, but I think that that
Mm-hmm.
changes in an instant if Tyreek signs to the Chiefs. I think that uh, like the Chiefs are such a fluid situation because it's like no one knows when Mahomes is going to come back. No one knows um, like if Tyreek Hill is going to sign to the Chiefs, if he's even borderline healthy and can be mediocrely productive, but that still eats into everybody else's targets. Like there is a with Kenneth Walker, the run game's going to improve. There's a path for Worthy being a
Yeah.
semi-productive, albeit touchdown dependent player. Um, I'm just not the hugest fan of Omar Cooper in the world personally. So there's that aspect of it too. But yeah, I'm not super high on him. I would definitely take the 27 pick unless I just like needed him for depth because he's also a guy where his value is lower than it was after his rookie year. Like he has a couple of touchdown pop weeks. Somebody gets desperate, they pay you a late first, and all of a sudden you've made way too much money off
Right.
that investment. So
Agreed. Agreed.
I'm probably holding just because there's a lot going on with the Chiefs right now. But if I can get an early second in 27 right now, I'm doing it and
Yeah.
just head moving off.
Yeah, I think Kenneth Walker definitely, when Mahomes is healthy, I think he changes this offense. Because
Yeah,
teams, I mean, you can't play too high all the time. I mean, you can against Mahomes. You don't want Mahomes beating you over the top. But Kenneth he's gonna eat you alive. I mean, that running game's gonna be a whole lot better. I mean, Pacheco was good for when he was healthy, but they have had no running game in Kansas City like the last 2 years. Pacheco's like good season was I think 3 years ago at some point. Oh yeah, he changed the offense completely. I think if Worthy could have like a Quentin Johnson like beginning of the year and you sell him off for like a first, or you
yeah,
if he skyrockets in value, I think you just move off of him just to
yeah,
be safe. Um, there's a 1%, 5% chance that he he finds a groove in the NFL, but I'm not holding my breath at this point just because he just doesn't get open, unfortunately, as much as you would like. And
No.
yeah, we'll see going forward. That's definitely going to be another guy we'll talk about, especially as we get closer to redraft season and if he's even going to be viable at all to pick if Tyreek Hill signs there. So um, the last guy though we'll talk about here is you did mention him, Sam Laporta. Yeah, he's my tight end six, consensus tight end seven. So I'm about at market with him at the moment. Last 2 years, I think, since his rookie year, has been pretty disappointing. I think we can all say like we probably expected him. Um, Jameson Williams just has looked better and has looked really, really good the last few years, especially last year. Jameson Williams looked like he got a contract extension. Looked like a finally the guy coming out of Alabama a couple years ago. Yeah, I think just how you view like once again the pecking order in this offense. Like to Sam Laporta, we know he's not gonna be better than Amon Ra. He's not gonna command more targets than him. Gibbs is gonna get his out of the backfield. They're gonna hand the ball off to him. They're gonna throw the ball to him. Him and JMO. Like who is going to? Is it gonna be a week to week thing? Laporta's been banged up. Um, yeah, I mean that I don't like the tight end position. I'd rather go cheap, or I want Bowers, McBride, Loveland. I talk about that quite a bit in my videos when tight end comes up. I prefer to get off of these middling tight ends. He's valued around McCaffrey, Bucky, Marv, Lemon, Dak, Stroud. Don't bother with Stroud right now, but yeah, any of those other guys, like I'd much rather have, or if I can like upgrade in my lineup, like up, tier up to a receiver, a better running back. That's like the way I like to utilize these tight ends. Like I'll down tier at tight end all day long rather than having a Laporta, unless I had the luxury of just having on my team, unless my team is just so stacked. But yeah, how do you view Laporta? Are you hoping that he gets back to his rookie season, or is that even remotely possible at this point, or is Jameson Williams is he just the number two, and we just kind of have to deal with Laporta having spike weeks here and there?
Um, I think that 2024 is probably the closest to Laporta's true value. I mean, in 2024, I was looking at it earlier today. He had 83 targets, 60 catches, like a little over 700 yards, and it was 6 or 7 touchdowns. So everything was definitely down from his rookie year. And I think that that's probably closer to Sam Laporta's true value, where I think that when he's healthy, he's a 200 point a year tight end. Very similar to the career path of guys like Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson. I actually think with tight ends, it's more interesting to kind of look in the past than it is to like, try to overly project. One thing that is interesting though, um, you look in back in the 20, like what was it, early 2010s. I was actually reading a long article about this. I thought it was interesting, where it talks about the size of the slot receiver, and basically how in the early 2010s, due to Gronk, like Gronk was the reason for it. There was this giant spike in teams using oversized slots, and then for a while, like kind of people followed the Patriots, where it was guys like Antonio Brown, with Welker, Julian Edelman, like the undersized slot was a thing for a while. And now we're starting to see a really big uptick with,
At the tight end
especially with the
six.
emergence of Loveland, Fannin, Travis Kelsey still kind of operates a lot out of the slot for the Chiefs of the oversized slot coming back. So I think that Sam Laporta's production is going to settle around that like 190 to 210 range per year. I think he's a good player. Um, I
Me too.
I think being stuck in the middle on tight end is like tough because I've seen, especially in fantasy playoffs, it seems like tight ends always do something weird where there's always like one tight end, whether it's McBride or David Njoku, who wins somebody a league late. But there's less correlation between tight end production and championship roster than any other position. I don't know with Laporta. Like I think he's a good player. I think he's not somebody bad to have on your team. I would be worried about the lower back issues. I'd be worried about the injuries. He didn't
Yeah, it's
seem
been pretty bad
moving as
last 2 years.
well, and that's where I worry about him kind of having that like Hawkinson or Mark Andrews career path where it's like you have these years where they look awesome, and then all of a sudden they're just kind of a mediocre production player because they're hurt and not moving the same. So I,
Yeah.
if somebody was paying good price for Laporta, like if somebody's gonna give you like a Brees Hall or a Bucky Irving, like one of those like kind of even like a Trevion Henderson, like those like RB 13 to 17, or somebody's gonna give you anywhere between AJ Brown and like Lemon, like this, my 17 to 26 range for wide receiver, like I'm smashing it, doing it in a heartbeat. Um,
Yeah.
but at
It's
the
just a
same
matter
time,
of can you get that?
yeah,
Yeah.
like if somebody's giving me, you know, if they're saying, "Hey, I'll give you Ricky Pearsall for," or or I'll get Sam Laporta for Ricky Pearsall or something like that. Like I'm probably taking Sam Laporta and just hoping that his production steadies and you don't have to worry about the tight end position for a while. But I don't know, tight end is weird. It's really really hard to evaluate.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with the tight end position. Um, I'll kind of reiterate a lot of the same points that you did. It's tough to value these guys because they may be going for like a Christian McCaffrey on the market, like it says they are, like Marvin Harrison, Bucky, Dak, whatever. But it's very you don't see it a lot where you see Laporta traded for any of these guys. It's either for picks or you know I almost feel like it's tight end for tight end a lot. Like a guy is either downgrading or upgrading at tight end, whichever manager is, and then that's really where I see Laporta move the most. So yeah, if you have Laporta, I don't mind betting on him this next year to hopefully stay healthy. This Lions offense, we all know it's going to be pretty good. I don't think that's a secret at this point. They're Gibbs. Jared Goff is a good quarterback. He spreads the ball around pretty well. And Laporta's he's shown that rookie year where he was really good. So it's hard to it's happened before. He just needs to stay healthy and it's really I think it might their weeks just might ping pong with him and Jameson Williams. I did notice though that Jameson Williams did do a lot of his damage during that year or during last year when Laporta was hurt because Laporta missed like the last from week 10 on or after week 10 he missed the rest of the year. So yeah, I think you can just kind of hope for Laporta to bounce back, stay healthy, and he's still a good asset. I'm just not sure I want a tight end who's valued this high when I could upgrade at a different position or potentially get to Bowers, Loveland, or McBride if possible. Like if I can add a 27-1, I know that sounds crazy, on top of Laporta, to go get like if my team is stacked, I don't mind going to get Bowers or McBride. I don't know if I pay that much for Loveland, but it feels like an okay move if your team is just an absolute, unit out there where you're just stacked at every position and you want to upgrade from Laporta. So yeah, I mean, do you have any closing thoughts on the tight end position in Laporta in general?
I think one interesting tidbit about Laporta, and this is more about us and the leagues that we're in, and less about it might not apply to the fantasy or the dynasty like landscape as a whole. But I think the interesting part of Laporta too is that a lot of Laporta's owners never expected Laporta to be good. And so
Oh yeah.
he's an interesting guy too though where I'll give advice to the people who are running with like maybe a Brenton Strange or an Evan Ingram is that if your
Jolie,
league
baby.
yeah, if your league's Sam Laporta owner will give him up for cheap, I would, and you don't have a tight end at all, and like Sam Laporta, like they have multiple tight ends on the roster, and maybe they've soured on Sam Laporta a little bit because of the injury and the slowdown from his rookie year. Like if he can be had for cheap, I would personally tier up to him. Um, because I think that tight end is also one of those positions where across our leagues at least, it seems like there are guys that like hoard tight ends and like have a bunch of really good tight ends, and then there's guys who they're like, grabbing Mike Gesicki off the waivers and Hunter Henry and rolling that out week to week because they have no idea um, what's going on. Like, I think if you've got one of the big three, I would go ahead and just like hold, don't do anything stupid. If you've got some of the guys that are in that similar range to Laporta, like a Tyler Warren, or I'm trying to think of
Yeah,
who else is Kittle, even
Fan.
like
I think Fannon's up there too.
yeah, like I would pretty much just hold who you have. There's not going to be like a lot of value extraction from getting Sam Laporta versus not. But I think if you are in tight end hell a little bit, as I like to call it, like not a bad guy to go target after he missed the last 8 games of last year. He was still a solid player in the
Yeah.
10 that he did play. So it's kind of you know tight end's a really interesting position. I know in our leagues, it's the position that we see moved the least. Like we don't really see a lot of quarterback trades. Um, where, like especially with the big quarterbacks, like the big quarterbacks hardly move teams, just because I think everybody values them so differently, and tight end is pretty similar to that, where it's just
Yeah.
very hard to find a trade partner who will value your asset the same way, and then for it to align where your team has an excess of the thing that another team needs. So
Yeah.
yeah, tight end's
Yeah,
weird. We
because you
could
can
make a
get
whole
away with.
video.
Oh yeah, you can get away with running because the position is so shallow. I mean, I think Gadsden was a fifth rounder last year, and he's like a top 10, 12 dynasty tight end. I mean, that's how. But then again, you have like a guy like Goddard, who's like tight end, who's in the 20s or like the high teens, which doesn't make any sense to me. Tight end position is weird. Yeah, I think if you have unless it's like a 2 point, per catch premium, I would just much rather go a different. I would much rather roster a different player at a different position than Laporta.
Yeah.
I think he can still be good. Doesn't mean I don't think he's a good player, but that Lions offense is definitely going to be a little bit more crowded than you would like, and I would just rather take like the gamble somewhere else. Like, why not take the gamble on like an Isaiah Likely and
Hmm.
tear down from Laporta? Um, just got a pretty big contract. I like Jackson Dart. But yeah, we could talk about tight end all day. We've been doing a lot of talking, so I think that we'll have this be the close of our first video together. Thank you. Thanks for coming on, and I am very much looking forward to doing more videos. We're gonna have to get you. I'm gonna be getting you a new camera there because you look awfully grainy in that view
Yep.
there. But no, in all seriousness, I'm just playing. But yeah, thank you for yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to do a lot more videos this off season. And did you want to have any closing words? Anything?
No, yeah, I'm gonna look to upgrade the camera, microphone. Definitely need to go invest in that just so we can pump out some high quality stuff. But cool video. Super pumped to get to be on the channel and get to start contributing a little bit, but also it's cool to get to learn too, because I know you put in a ton of time and effort into this stuff, which I appreciate, but it also makes me terrified to have to play against you in our leagues too. So definitely interesting dynamic too that we're in all the leagues that we're in. We're kind of just
Yeah.
spilling our secrets a little bit, but that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, we're here for the audience, and it's definitely gonna be fun because we think a lot on the same things, but we have different perspectives.
Yeah.
How we kind of play Dynasty and fantasy in general. But yeah, I'm excited. I've been trying to get you on for a while now, so it's nice to kind of film our first video. And yeah, I'm excited to continue doing this. So thank you for anybody who was watching this video. And like always, guys, we will see you next time.